Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to do more than just survive. I'm Liz Frerichs, and this is my husband, Evan.
Good morning.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us on this wonderful Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday.
Since it's Friday, we are talking about being complete, which is not being a fragmented person, so not being anyone different depending on where you are, but just being the same person all the time, utilizing your entire self to do things, so not being stuck in the past or the present on the worry-regret spectrum, and then engaging with what is actually happening rather than some alternate version of reality.
Yeah, we have a tendency to construct
Yes.
these places that aren't real. You know, when we worry, we're creating a future that will never happen, and when we are full of bitterness and regret, our memory of that could be distorted as well. And even if it's 100% accurate, we need to live in forgiveness and grace, and
Yes.
especially with ourselves.
Yeah, well, and I think that's one of the reasons kindness is so hard. You know, kindness versus love. Figuring out what that looks like in any given situation. Because not only are we dealing with, you know, what's the difference between kindness and love, but then we're also dealing with what's actually going on rather than like, what do I think is going on? I don't know. Or am I dragging all this baggage into to whatever the situation is, and that's affecting the way that I respond, you know?
Yeah, it takes work. I mean, to do this this process of self-examination, which we talk about all the time, it's rewarding work.
Yeah.
But I think kindness does. You know, kindness and love are so similar. I think, didn't you say like there was a Bible study book where like kindness just kind of got rolled into maybe goodness or into love? Like instead of addressing it, even though it's on the list and it's equal standing with all of those things, the fruit of the Spirit list, it kind of gets mushed in with some of this other stuff. So we're just trying to give it some distinctness.
So what do you think the difference between kindness and love is?
Well, I think kindness is a subset of love. I think love is such a broad category. You know, there are so many things that can be a part of love, where I think there are fewer things that can be considered kindness. The example I thought of today, actually, somebody on, you know, when every week we do the show, I'll search around Twitter and see if anybody's talking about it and try to engage in a conversation. So this guy was talking about, he was lumping kindness and love together, even though he mentioned them. You know, he said kindness and love, unconditional, you know, something about you should always do it, I guess, or something. But I brought up the example. It's like, I think when you're disciplining a child, you're loving them, but you may not be kind to them. I mean, because
I hope you're kind to them.
Well, it depends. I mean, if there's a consequence and you've got to enforce that consequence, that's
But
not
you can
like,
do it sweetly. You don't have to be like, whoosh.
Right. You're not whipping them. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm saying...
And I wasn't talking about physically whipping them either,
Okay.
although some people do that. I just meant verbally, like, I think a lot of people are like, you're an idiot. Why'd you do that?
Well, no,
That's
that's not appropriate either. But if your kid's playing on the iPad and there's, you know, he played it for 8 hours on Saturday and it's like, well, we're not doing that anymore. So if you do that again, I'm putting it away. Then you got to put it away the next weekend.
Right.
That's, you know, I don't know. Would that be considered not kind but loving? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. In the Bible, I feel like kindness a lot of the way is just going, or a lot of the time, it's going out of your way to help someone. I mean, when you look at different examples of kindness, like God reaching out to Hagar when Hagar and Ishmael were in the desert after Sarah kicked them out of the living with Abraham, and then, you know, they're about to die, and God goes to Hagar, and that's when she names him the God who sees, because he provides water for them and promises to be with Ishmael throughout his life. Or David, there's a couple examples where David talks about, you know, showing kindness to someone because of the way that their father showed kindness to him. It's not necessarily a like, hey, this is making you happy.
Yeah.
I think that's where the confusion comes in.
yeah. Well, and it's tricky because, like, I was trying to, because, yeah, in the big scheme of things, they are so similar. And you're actually being kind to your children when you have rules and discipline and consequences.
Right.
Because that's making them a better person. It's allowing them to be a functional adult.
Right.
So it is kind. But in like, if you were to just isolate a thing, like taking the candy away and saying, no, you can't have that.
Right.
If you only saw that, maybe it wouldn't be seen as kind, even though it's loving. I don't know. It's tricky. They are very similar. Why? So what do you think the differences are?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think a big part of it is, thinking about what is providing happiness and what is providing freedom. Because love is all about, how do I do what's best for the beloved? How do I make the beloved better? So, that perfecting side of things, whereas kindness is much more...
immediate help?
Yeah, I guess immediate help. But
term?
also, I think a lot of people, when they think about kindness, they think about helping other people be happy.
Yeah, but that's not always
right,
the most kind thing either.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I agree, it's tricky.
Some of the things I was thinking of, are things like assertiveness and true accountability and justice. Like, those are parts of love.
Right.
They could be kind of part of kindness too. So yeah, maybe kindness is, we've been talking about at the beginning of the week how a kindness is charitable action towards someone.
Right.
And that's, like you were saying, it's something that right now is helpful, right now is productive somehow and good. Love maybe is more of a long game, and kindness is more of a like, what's going on right now.
Right. Well, and I think, looking at that verse in Romans that I talked about on Monday, Romans 11:22, where it talks about how, God's kindness is conditional. Right there, that seems like that's a pretty major difference.
Yeah, whereas God's love is unconditional.
Yeah.
I've been pondering that too. That's why I love doing this show, because we're thinking through this stuff, and it's an excuse for us to hash it out. I'm definitely a verbal processor. You are too,
right.
Aren't you? So I like doing this. It's a way to process, and hopefully it's productive for the listener too. These are good things to think about. We want to be thinking about these biblical concepts and trying to understand. That's part of our spiritual walk.
I think another reason that kindness and love are hard to figure out is because sometimes they're aligned. You can do something and be kind and loving at the same time,
Yeah.
So when it's like, well, is it kind and loving to discipline your child? Well, yeah. But there are also times, like for instance, it's kind of the Papa Murphy's people to hand our kids a sucker,
Yeah, or the bank teller.
Right, the bank teller, they're always giving us suckers. I don't understand it. They never ask, they just give them to us.
Right.
I'm like, my kids are allergic to that. But anyway, it's kind of them to give my kids a sucker, but it's loving of me to say, no, you can't have that.
Sure.
I think it depends on what, I don't know. You have to know the situation really well.
I think kindness can lead us to love, and maybe that's something that would be helpful. Like, it's kind of easier to tell what would be kind in a situation like right now. You're in an elevator with somebody or whatever. What would be a way to be kind to that person? And we could probably figure that out.
Say hi.
What's a way to love them?
Stand awkwardly.
Yeah. Push all the buttons so we have to stop at every floor.
Maybe that's the not loving or kind thing.
But that's the thing, like, to actually know what would be, to love them would take to know them.
Right.
Whereas to be kind, you can be kind to anyone.
I was going to say, maybe if they had like this really fond memory of someone pushing all the elevator buttons and they were super depressed and you were like, here, I could totally help you out. I'll cheer you up.
You see a little tear forming in their eye, but you don't know if it's because of the nice memory or because you just like ruined their day. Yeah. I think just another angle of this is the example of the man who thinks he's loving his family by working all the time and making the money, when in his mind maybe he could understand what he really needs to do to love his family better would be to think about what it would take to be kind to his family. And to do that, you've actually got to be there.
Right.
So it helps get us to love and helps us to understand some of the aspects of love, but not all
Right.
of them, because it's a subset.
Right. And I think, there are times when love doesn't feel very kind. Confronting someone when they've made a mistake, that feels really bad. And they definitely will not, well, okay, that's not true. In Proverbs, it talks about how a wise person, appreciates discipline and appreciates
Rebuke.
rebuke.
The wise person.
Right. But if you rebuke a fool, they will not appreciate the rebuke at all. They will not feel like it's kindness. So
Yeah.
to them, it's really not, even if it's love.
So know your audience.
Yes.
It's tricky.
It is tricky.
So I guess we pray for wisdom and understanding, and we try stuff.
yeah.
And I think that's what we've got to do. Some of the stuff we've got to experience to learn.
Yeah. But we do the work of first being complete, being present, dealing with our past so we're not carrying around baggage, making sure that we're figuring out what's actually going on. Like you were saying, praying for God's perspective on the situation,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
And that's all doable.
Takes work, but it's doable. All right. Well, as always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you are going to create those new neural pathways or strengthen those neural pathways to see the things that are good in your life, because that is a choice you have every day. And every day, you either get stronger or weaker. It's up to you.
It depends on what you practice doing, right?
Exactly. We love you guys, and we're praying for you. As always, thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this podcast helpful, please do continue to share it. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. I hope you guys have an awesome day on Sunday, and come back next week, and we are going to talk about faithfulness.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.